What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. It's a pleasure of mine to discuss a fighter that is not often talked about in today's conversation, and his name was Luigi Salica. He's known in the boxing community as Lou Salica. I had the pleasure of meeting him many years ago. He died at the age of 89, January 30th, 2002, Brooklyn, New York. And I had a great conversation with Lou Salica. I would forever cherish that conversation. He was an honorable man. Now, what's interesting about Lou Salica's birth, many have him as July 26, 1913, and some have him as November 1912. I don't know why I'm saying 20. 1912 in Brooklyn, New York. And in many boxing record books, they don't have his birth date. Not clear on that. I'm unclear on it as well, so I don't get into it. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Now, I began boxing December 9th, 1932. And I use him as a benchmark for Harry Wiley Sr. because Harry Wiley Sr. was a mentor to Lou Salica. Lou Salica was his protege. The other greatest trainer, my two top greatest trainers in boxing history, is Jimmy DeFrost. Oh, what a trainer this man was. He was a hell of a trainer. He had them all. Harry Greb and Jack Dempsey and Walker. And he advised so many fighters, but he had so many other fighters. He tried to get Kid Norfolk. Kid Norfolk was already locked in a contract with a trainer, a manager, and Leo P. Flynn and many. But I got to tell you something. Jimmy DeFrost was a brilliant mind. Well, Harry Wiley Sr. was as well. And the thing I love about Harry Wiley Sr., and I appreciate and respect him as a man, but I respect him as a man, was that he cared and loved his fighters, cared about them. He would put his career on the line for his fighters, and he has done that. You see, Lou Salica was in the 1932 Olympic Games. He would bring home a bronze medal in the flyweight division. Well, Harry Wiley Sr., who spoke up for both black and white fighters on that team, when he spoke up for the black fighters, that's where he had a problem. He walked into Commissioner Lander's office. He was in charge of the athletic sports at that time. And this is why you have eras where you have to wipe out an entire era, because you got disgusting human beings that should have never been born to begin with. And they are giving a position that they take full advantage of. There's no reason why you have this kind of mentality. Where Harry Wiley Sr. would walk into the office because he was complained by the fighters themselves about them being mistreated. Black fighters. And they were given used shoes that had holes in them. They would eat once a day, as white fighters would eat twice or three times a day. They were given powdered milk. White fighters were given whole milk. They were not getting the proper nourishment or nutrition. Where white fighters were getting steak and eggs, black fighters were getting powdered food to eat. And this is what caused problems in Harry Wiley Sr.'s training career. So a lot of people don't know Harry Wiley Sr. had a heavyweight, and his name was Danny Cox. A lot of people don't even know who this man is. My grandfather was friends with Danny Cox. Danny Cox used to train in Billy Grubb's gymnasium on 116th Street. And he worked at the Harper Harlem House. The Harper Harlem House was on 125th Street, across the street from the Teresa Hotel. And Danny Cox was the doorman there. You had Ray Robinson and Louis Valentine. They worked inside as ushers at the Harlem Opera House. Not even in record books. People don't know this. And Danny Cox was the heavyweight. He sparred with fighters such as Harry Bobo. He sparred with Big Boy Brown and Wallace Cross and others. And Harry Wiley Sr. had him as a fighter. Well, Harry Wiley Sr. had 5 men on that Olympic team. They would wind up bringing home 2 gold medals and 3 bronze. Lou Salica was one of the bronze medal winners. And when Harry Wiley Sr., I get choked up when I tell these stories. Harry Wiley Sr. would walk into Commissioner Landis' office and he would tell him the stories that the black fighters would tell him, how they were being mistreated. They didn't have proper equipment. They were malnourished. They wasn't getting the proper nourishment, the proper sleep, the rest. They were sleeping on cots and the white fighters were sleeping on beds. These black fighters couldn't change in the dressing room or the locker rooms. They had to change in mop closets with mop buckets. Standing room only, if you will. And he would go and tell this to Commissioner Landis. Landis would tell him, who the hell do you think you are coming to my office? Don't you ever come into my office and tell me how to run my outfit. Matter of fact, you can get the hell out of here. And he fired him. He fired Harry Wiley Sr. for speaking up for fighters that's going to be fighting in the Olympic Games representing the same country that the man who fired him was from, because he had the audacity to walk into the office of a man and tell him what the concerns were. You fire him for that? Oh. Well, Harry Wiley Sr. would wind up becoming the greatest trainers during the era of Ray Robinson. And he would have so many great fighters. He trained Henry Armstrong for those same Olympic Games. Henry Armstrong came up short. He had him for about 6 to 8 months. And he would teach Henry Armstrong how to tuck his chin underneath the shoulder and how to use his left elbow to knock down the right guard of the opponent, how to walk him down in different directions, how to watch his feet to gauge him, and use his head to lift up his opponent's chin and come up with an overhand right. So many different techniques he would teach Henry Armstrong. Same man that was fired for speaking up for his fighters. And if I'm a kin or a relative of Landis, I wouldn't want anybody to know it. That's how disgusting this human being is. And men that will like him. Unbelievable. But Lou Salica would win the 1931 Metropolitan AAU Flyweight Championship, the 1932 New York City Golden Gloves Flyweight Championship, the Inner City Golden Gloves Flyweight Championship, the Italian American Flyweight Championship, the National AAU Flyweight Championship. And he would win the bronze medal as a flyweight in the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. And he was just a remarkable, remarkable person. He had victories over Jackie Jurek, Pete DeGrassi, Tony DePuig, Carlos Indian Quintana, Emilio Nagata, Johnny Skipper Allen, just to name a few. But to show you the time that Lou Salica came, you had guys like Cleo Shane, and Cleo Shane would actually turn professional in 1940 along with Robinson and Charles and Pep and Williams and Jimmy Bivens. But you had men such as Richie Lamont and Bobby Poison Ivy, Pete Scalzo, Lou Feldman, Bobby Pancho, Ray Lunny, Manuel Ortiz, Small Montana, Henry Hook. I'm trying to think of these guys. Tony Marino, Baby Casanova. Oh, man, Archie Bell. Who else was? Lou Salica himself, Small Montana, Juan Zarita, Enrique Bolanos. All these guys were from bantamweight to featherweight to lightweight. Who else was in there? Phil Terranova. I'm trying to think of them real quickly for you. Jackie Wilson, Joey Archibald. So many of them. They'll come to me. Howard Dad, many of them. But that's the time that Lou Salica came in. And he had 13 fights in 1933 in New York. He would win 12 and have 1 draw. December 27th of that year of 32, he would have a 6-round victory. Pete DeGrassi, Brooklyn, New York. Pete DeGrassi is another underrated fighter. Now, when I say underrated, I mean in today's standards. That's when I use the word underrated, I'm always talking about today's standards, not during their time. That's common sense. But in today's standards, his name does not come up. Many names don't come up. And that's why they're underrated today. And it's unfortunate because they were big time fighters, big names during their day. And I mean, Mike Gibbons, I mean, he was an outstanding fighter, was Mike Gibbons. St. Paul Thunderbolt, Mike Mateague, another good light heavyweight. Jeff Smith, the Bayonne Globetrotter. Underrated fighters today. These audiences don't know who these fighters are. And it's just unfortunate. And that's why I try to discuss them as often as I can. We had 10 fights in 1934, 8 wins and 2 losses. He would defeat Julian Katz, another fighter, underrated. A lot of people don't know who Julian Katz was. Very good Jewish fighter. Julian Katz was, I don't call him a club fighter, a spoiler. And he was friends with a friend of mine. His name was Teddy. Teddy knew all of them guys. Lower East Side. And he would defeat Julian Katz. Cisco Escobar. He had 10 fights in 1936. He would defeat Small Montana in 10 rounds. San Francisco, California. He had 9 fights in 1937. He lost in 15 rounds to Cisco Escobar in San Francisco, California. He fought for the Bantamweight Championship title. He was in there with Midget Wargas. Now, Midget Wargas, let me stop there for one moment. 1929, he was in the top 10 with Eladio Valdez, Black Bell. Many great names. And so Lou Silica was in the conversation with all those great names that I'm mentioning to you. Richie Lamons wound up becoming a champion. He would defeat him. He would defeat Manuel Ortiz. And then he would lose to Manuel Ortiz. And he would lose his title. Now, you had another very good fighter by the name of Georgie Pace. He was a black fighter out of Cleveland. Georgie Pace was a brilliant fighter. He would lose and then win to Georgie Pace. Georgie Pace would be the 3rd black bantamweight champion in boxing history. George Dixon, and then you would have Panama Al Brown, and then Georgie Pace. He was out of Cleveland. So, I just wanted to talk about Lou Silica, who, by the way, was in the ring with Harry Jaffa as well. I think he's underrated by many fight fans today. They don't know who he is. This man fighting today had no problem being champion in multiple divisions. And that's coming from me. That's how great of a fighter this man was. It's unappreciated. Shout out to Lou Silica and his family. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. All great fights and all great fighters would never be forgotten on my channel. Brilliant, brilliant fighter this man was. He fought at the New York Coliseum, at the Legion Stadium in Hollywood, Athletic Park in Vancouver, Coney Island Velodrome in Brooklyn, New York, Shrine Park in Philadelphia. Oh, peace.